Hello, basketball fans! It's me, DC, here for Fantasy Basketball Analyzer to help you get ready for Fantasy Basketball Week 2. So let's get into it. First, we start how we do every week by looking at pace and defensive efficiency. So I'm bringing it up right here. Pace is Hollinger's PER. We're seeing how many possessions every team does per game, right? Because the faster you play, the more opportunities to compile stats. It'll help you in points leagues, category leagues, everything. Defensive efficiency, right, is how good you are at defending it. We put them together because even if you're a great defense, but you play quick enough, you can still allow the other team to compile a lot of fantasy stats, even if they're misses and stuff like that. It helps your rebounds and everything. So these things matter. They work in conjunction. We average them out, and this is what we find for a good matchup. That said, we're still living in week 1 as I make this video to preview week 2. So small sample size theater, right? These numbers are not to be trusted. Look down at the bottom, the pace. The Bucks have a 48. The Clippers have a 52. They really only have 48 possessions a game for the Bucks. Like, that's not true. The sample size is just completely incorrect. On the other side of it, Golden State says 117, and then everyone else is at 107. Washington, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Indiana. Now, does this kind of tell us which teams are playing fastest? Yeah, Golden State, Minnesota, Washington, Oklahoma, San Antonio. This makes sense. You have either really fast movement offense and or really bad teams. They tend to play a little faster. You get younger, you're playing faster. You got bad defense, you're playing a little faster, right? These things kind of work in conjunction. Are the Bucks and Clippers better at defense? Philly, maybe not so much the Lakers, but they're just older, knocking out a run, right? Like, their pace being slower makes sense, but it's skewing the data. So this is where they're at. They're in the spreadsheet. And if you don't know, the spreadsheet link always down below. If anything's not working, leave a comment. I'll make sure it's there. But you can go to Google Sheet, make your copy, do your own things if you want. It's always going to be there. So I have these numbers, and then we take these numbers every week and we apply them to the week 2 schedule. But when I did that for this week, I did not actually highlight red teams being bad matchups, slightly less red being not as bad, right? Dark green, green, light, go. Lighter green, not as great, but still good. I'm actually still using our matchups from last year. This is where we ended last year. I still feel like that data is a little more sticky than this weird sample size we have right now. So while I included the numbers, if you want to look at that, go for it. I'm not ready to make any predictions if I'm saying this game has a high overall points total because Portland's playing blah, 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 and all because, like, some teams have played 2 games, some played 1. So, but this is the real schedule. So beyond the strength of schedule part of it, we got to look at who they're playing, right? First, and I mentioned this in the last video, Sacramento only has 2 games. In your weekly lock leagues, they're not usable. If you're in a daily change league, that's fine. But also the 2 that they have, the days they're playing on, you actually might get those guys in their low volume days. And we'll talk about that with streaming. So there is a little silver lining there, even though they only have 2 games. Everyone else has 3 or 4 games. I don't need to read them off to you. They're here on the screen, so you can pause it and check it out, or click the link and use that down below. For next week, we want to be careful. Dallas, Denver, and Indiana all have 2 games. So at the end of the week, you see these guys, they've got games on Sunday. You might be picking someone up to put them into your Sunday lineup. You probably will not get a lot of use out of them for the next week. That doesn't mean don't pick up a Maverick if that's who you really want, especially because they have a Saturday, Sunday back-to-back. So you might get 2 games out of them, and that's valuable. Just know that player, whoever it is you're picking up, you probably can't hang on to and use it into the next week if you're trying to just stream these games. Does that make sense? Great. I don't know why I asked a question. You can't give me audio feedback. If it didn't make sense, I guess leave a comment and I'll try and answer it. I think you're on board. I did mention that they have a back-to-back, which takes us to the next page, which is back-to-back. So there's no back-to-backs on Monday, Tuesday, right? But we do have a smattering everywhere else. We've got someone, Detroit, with a Tuesday, Wednesday. We got a couple on Wednesday, Thursday, a ton on Friday, Saturday, and then some Saturday, Sunday. There are players that we predicted would not be played on back-to-backs because of their teams. You know, Zion, who you can't see this, but I'm watching him play Charlotte right now as I record this on Friday night. You know, Zion, Kawhi, there's guys we can predict. Zach LaVine was someone we didn't have in that group. Traditionally, he has not rested on that, but he's having knee issues to start the season, which is terrible news. Makes me think that Chicago's got back-to-back, San Antonio, Philly. I don't want to be shocked if he's resting, probably against San Antonio, so that they have him for Philly. Just a prediction. We want to look out for things like that. That said, I don't want to confidently say, oh, Brooklyn's got a back-to-back. KD or Kyrie are definitely sitting. We're only in week 2. I don't know it for sure. So you want to run through this list, check your team. I'm tracking as these games come out who we see resting. Make sure that that prediction of Kyle Lowry's going to rest on their 14 back-to-backs or whatever this year. Make sure that my predictions are matching with reality, and then we're going to start going from there. But again, small sample size. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So you check this out, look ahead, or consider it when you're making pickups on certain players. It can help if they have 2 games and they're going to play. That's great. Kind of judge maybe off of the age of the player. But there's also opportunities in there, right? If you know, say, Lowry's going to be resting, if that comes out, maybe Max Strus is going to get some extra minutes on that team. You know, everything opens up. There's a bigger portion of the pie, and that can help guide you the other way when you're looking at that team where you might want to scoop someone up. These things play into who I think are good waiver ads, and that's a different video that comes out every weekend. This one, we're just breaking down the schedule ahead of time to get the edge before other people start considering what next week brings. But the biggest edge you can have is with quality games, right? Who's playing on low volume days? So we're going to take a look at that. This week's kind of crazy. Most people are quality games, right? If there are 8 or less games we consider quality games, it's definitely better if it's 7 or less because that's half the league. But 8's the general rule of thumb people use when they talk about this. So Tuesday, only 4. Thursday, only 4. Saturday has 7. Then on top of that, Monday and Sunday are 8 games. So 5 of the 7 days are not high volume. Those Wednesday, Friday, they're loaded up. There's 10 and 11 games in there. But otherwise, most of these days, you can probably get some players in there. If the shirt didn't give it away, or if you're new to the channel, I try to wear gear that's going to factor into what we're talking about. So the best streaming schedule, in my opinion, this week is Dallas. Despite the fact that they only have 2 games next week, you get Pelicans, Brooklyn, OKC, Orlando. 3 on the very low volume day, and Orlando on a pretty low volume day. That's my favorite. Golden State's also good. Phoenix, Miami, Charlotte, same thing. 3 on the very low volume days, and then they end Sunday. You could argue that's a little better because they have a 3-game week the next week. So if you scoop someone up from there, maybe they go in. I'm not sure how many Golden State Warriors are on your waiver wire because so many of them were drafted. You know, you're not going to find Jordan Poole sitting out there this year. Wiseman's coming off the bench, but he's probably drafted in your league too. So you got to factor that in. You might have a better chance of getting someone off of Dallas. I also like OKC because they have 3 games on the lowest volume days, but they only have the 3. They don't give you that 4th game to kind of put you over a little bit more. Sacramento has 2 on the low volume day, which I mentioned, but they only have 2 games total. So say Brooklyn, who has 2 of the low volume days, Thursday and Saturday, the fact that they get Monday and Wednesday, you get 4 games, probably more valuable. You might not get to use that Wednesday game because if you're picking up a role player from the Nets and there's 10 games, you're probably not playing that player, right? This should give you a sense of what we're talking about. If it doesn't make sense, if you're new to the channel, leave a comment. We'll talk about it down below. I'll explain it because this is going to be a big thing. Picking up players that you can actually use and get into your lineup to accumulate stats is more valuable than picking up a better player. If the better player is so good that they're going to supplant and jump into your starting lineup, say Santi Aldama from Memphis, right? Came out 3 3-pointers, 18 and 11, an assist, a steal, a block. If he's going to be starting in Triple J's place and keep putting up numbers like that, then you don't want to consider him as just a role player fill-in where you're worried about quality games. Then you're picking him up to play him in your lineup as an actual viable regular starter, at least until Triple J is back. That's if you believe it. We have a 1-game sample size. I think he played pretty well. He looked good in the preseason, so it could be true, but it might not be that good every night. He's playing Houston as I record this, so I don't know what's going to happen. It's also a pretty good matchup for him, so hopefully he will do well, but maybe it'll fluctuate. Maybe he'll have an off night and he's going to finish with 6 points and 2 rebounds or foul out. You know, these things could change. So I'm not necessarily saying grab Aldama. We're going to look at this later this weekend, but that's just kind of the difference between the players. If you're scooping someone up because you think they're going to be helpful for you all season, don't worry about the quality games. If you're picking someone up because you're looking to attack threes or steals, this is where we want to consider and make sure these guys can actually get in your lineup. And if you're limited on moves, I would look at Dallas, Golden State, Oklahoma City, maybe Brooklyn, to try and find the teams where you can get the most use out of single pickup. And that's going to do it for me. I will be back this weekend to break down the waiver wire. Lots of options out there. I'm still going to preach caution. I'll say it in the other video. Don't give up on people too soon. You drafted them for a reason. But if you are excited about Ben Matherin, and he wasn't drafted in your league, I was excited about him coming in. I have him in my top 3 for a chance to win Rookie of the Year. He's a long shot, but if he's out there, there are players that I'm ready to move on early, but be careful what you're cutting. You don't want to be kicking yourself because you're jumping too soon. We'll talk about it soon. Thanks for watching. We're into week 1. We're watching NBA. You know what I want you to do? Go out, win your week. Thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please hit the like button and leave a comment down below. It helps me grow the channel. If you want more videos like this, hit subscribe or even the little bell will give you alerts. And I'll be back soon with another video for you.